out in the next 45 days as we close out 2023. Social Security checks, stimulus checks from multiple states, what's really happening and what can we really expect going forward. A lot of people who are receiving Social Security benefits, SSI, SSDI, VA beneficiaries, as well as other forms of fixed income benefits from the government. And so since a lot of these checks are going to be released in the next 45 days, I figured let me jump on here and add some clarity and clarification. In fact, news has actually come out that multiple people who are receiving Social Security checks in December will actually receive more than one Social Security check. So let's just quickly touch on this one. Before we go into it, if you guys appreciate the updates, please drop a quick like for the video. Also subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it, you guys. And just let me know also if you guys are able to hear me okay. Just drop a quick yes or no in the comment section. I really appreciate you guys. And also thank you for subscribing. And for those of the new members that have recently joined the channel, membership is not required, but by clicking the join button, you can join as a member. And I really appreciate you guys. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this thing. So again, multiple Social Security checks will actually be sent in December. So basically, the Social Security Administration is going to be sending out 2 checks for the month of December, but instead of just 1 check, as long as as long as you're getting a check, I'm pretty sure most people are going to be happy. But I don't want you guys blowing this money too quickly. Because basically they're not giving you extra money. The agency sends out 2 checks in the same month a few times per year. In fact, this happens almost, if I'm not mistaken, once every quarter. December just so happens to be one of those months. So when 2 checks hit your bank account, I don't want you guys to be, out there making it rain too quickly, thinking that you're going to get a 3rd check in January, because this may not happen for you. In fact, it really more than likely will not happen for you. So just a quick heads up for the community. And thank you guys for confirming that you're able to hear me. I really appreciate it. Wow, we already got 350 people in here. Can I get half of you guys to just drop a quick like? Can we get the likes up to like 150? I would totally appreciate it. Donna Doran, Cheryl Vargason, Romans chapter 6, Tina Murray, Deline Marilla, VJack, Bud Gibson. Thank you guys. Let's get back into it. So what we're seeing here is basically is kind of a quirk in the payment schedule. So the SSI beneficiaries, they get 2 payments in the month of March, June, September, and December, while no payments are deposited in the months of January, April, July, and October. So if you get 2 checks, or I should say, when you get 2 checks in the month of December, I want you guys to understand why that's happening so you can better prepare yourselves and your family for the months when you won't receive a check, okay? So this extra payment in December should be more or less considered like an advance for the next month. So now, if you don't receive your payment on the expected date, then of course the SSA is advising people to allow 3 additional mailing days before contacting the agency, because they ain't got enough people answering the phones, and I don't want you guys sitting on hold needlessly. So anyway, that's what's going on there. Now, in terms of the 2023 federal maximum SSI benefit rate, it's $914 for an individual, and it's $1,371 for a couple. Oh, wow. We got so many people from the UK. So Atranza Thiessen is from the UK. Thank you for letting me know. We've got international viewers here as well. This is awesome. So now, in terms of the 2023 federal maximum SSI rate of $914 for an individual and $1,371 for a couple, these amounts are actually expected to increase in 2024. And so they're expecting these amounts to rise from $914 to $943, and for the couples to go from $1,371 per month to $1,415 per month. So yeah, that's what we're expecting going forward. Oh wow, thank you for all the likes, you guys. I really appreciate the support. And also, we're definitely going to be talking about what's going on in this wild and crazy housing market and how unaffordable housing has been. And because a lot of you guys have been saying like, "Hey, Ron, like, should I buy a house now? I can't afford it, even though interest rates are a little bit higher. Can I just refinance in the future? What should I do? Or am I better off renting? I want to establish myself with home ownership and kind of start building equity for my family going forward. What should I do?" So we're going to touch on that later in today's video. But I do want to talk about some checks that are actually going out outside of Social Security for 2023. So let's briefly look at that just for a second, right? So state of Alabama. So the state of Alabama is actually sending checks pretty soon. So we're going to cover some details on that. The IRS actually issued a reminder for those who may be entitled for the recovery rebate credit to file a tax return and actually claim their money back before the deadline. So if you guys haven't done that, please don't let this deadline expire. I don't want you guys coming to me saying, "Ron, I didn't know and I missed out on my money." I don't want you guys missing out on your money. So back in 2020, March of 2020, with the whole COVID, situation, Relief and Economic Security Act, basically they provided these economic payments or EIPs. And these payments were up to $1,200 per adult for eligible individuals and $500 per month for each child under the age of 17. The payments were actually reduced for individuals whose gross adjusted income was more than $75,000 a year. And or if you were married, then it was up to $150,000 per year. Otherwise, your payments began to kind of decrease in amounts. So, with that being said, basically you got some current credits, and I want to talk to you guys just real briefly about just kind of claiming these credits, right? So you can actually file your returns electronically to get your check if you have not gotten it already. So essentially, you can file your returns electronically. The tax software will help you figure out your actual recovery rebate credit. And people are actually still cashing in on these today. So there's no penalty for a refund on a tax return that's filed after its due date. So that is good. If you didn't file because you were worried about, how it might impact your benefits, you should also know that the credit can't be counted as income when determining eligibility for federal benefits like Social Security, Supplemental Security Income, also known as SSI. Also, it can't be counted as income against your Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. And also, it can't be counted as income against WIC, which is the Women, Infants and Children, and Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, the TANF, right? So know your rights, guys. Know your rights. Social Security Administration has been sending these scary letters out to people on fixed income, many retirees receiving these borderline egregious letters, trying to get people to pay back money that they can't even afford to pay back. That's a wild situation. But part of this problem is that many people had received stimulus checks, and it kind of put them over this income barrier, this income cap, and made them ineligible for the amount of Social Security that they were receiving. But legally or technically, this shouldn't have happened because stimulus checks should not have been counted as income. So it's really the government's fault. It's like they tried to help people and then they end up burning people at the same time. Like that's kind of really poorly thought out and even more poorly executed. So not cool, Uncle Sam, not cool. So anyway, guys, drop me a quick comment below if you have received any of those scary letters. December is a month where you get 2 checks because, okay, cool. Yeah. So, let's see. We got a lot of people dropping comments below. Got you. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. And I also want to thank you guys so much for the super chats. You guys don't have to do that, but when you do, I just really appreciate when you do. So that's super cool. So let's start talking about some of these states are actually still sending these checks out, right? So Alabama is actually one of these states that are sending the tax rebate checks out, and they're expected to be coming soon. So Here's what you need to know about these Alabama rebates here. So Alabama Governor Kay Ivey recently reminded taxpayers that the Alabama tax rebate checks will be coming out soon to nearly 1.9 million state residents. Isn't that wild? Like, it's hard to believe in 2023 we're still talking about some states sending stimulus checks out, right? Like, it almost sounds fake, but it's actually legit. So after changing the rebate amount twice, Alabama lawmakers eventually settled on the one-time payments of up to $300. Yeah, so basically, let's see, what are we looking at here? If your filing status was married, filing jointly, you will receive a $300 monthly rebate payment. Excuse me, you will receive a $300 tax rebate payment. It is not monthly. If you filed as single, head of household, or married filing separately, you will receive a $150 tax rebate payment. So not a huge amount of money, but it is money that I'm pretty sure that, if you got it, you'd be happy, but it's probably not a big, huge game changer for most people. But let me know in the comments down below if you'd like to get an extra $300, random check that you can deposit and spend for whatever you want. Let me know. So let's talk about who doesn't qualify for this Alabama tax rebate. If you didn't file a personal Alabama income tax return for 2021's tax year, you won't qualify for the 2023 Alabama tax rebate check. Estates and trusts are not eligible to receive the payments. Additionally, you won't receive a rebate payment if you were claimed as a dependent on a 2021 federal or Alabama state tax return. So it looks like pretty much everybody should get one. Oh, wait. So what is this $400 rebate in Alabama? Wow. Okay, so Governor Ivey actually proposed a one-time $400 tax rebate for single head of household, married filing separately filers in March. Under Ivey's original proposal, joint filers would have received $800 payments. However, there's always a but, right? However, as a state Senate committee proposal, smaller payments of $105 and $210 respectively. Okay, got you. So, so that's what's going on for Alabama. We got some other states that are going to be sending out checks. You guys want to know about those other states, or should I just skip over to the real estate section? Because I want to talk to you guys a little bit about interest rates on mortgages going forward. But let me know if you guys want to hear more about these other states that are sending these checks out first. Hey, Bella, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate you. That is so kind of you. I really appreciate that. Like I said, guys, you guys don't have to super chat me, but I do appreciate when you do. By the way, what inspired you to do that? Just hit me up in the comments. I'd love to know. So anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about the state of Arizona. So how can you get the November stimulus check in Arizona, right? Eligible taxpayers will receive up to $750. So the Arizona Department of Revenue, the ADOR, began distributing resources from Arizona Families Tax Rebate Program in November as of the 15th. So literally as of last week, they started sending out checks, right? So this ADOR will identify those eligible to receive stimulus checks from their tax information that it has available to taxpayers, and these refunds are going to be sent by direct deposit to the account holder provided on their 2021 and 2022 tax returns. So I hope you guys filed those, because if you have, then you should be in the pool of people receiving these checks, theoretically. So let's look at who's eligible to receive these November checks, right? We got 9 days left for November. Hope you guys are getting ready for Thanksgiving. Taxpayers who have lived a full year in Arizona and have claimed the state tax credit for dependents on their 2021 state tax return are eligible, right? Cool. To qualify, a taxpayer must owe at least $1 in taxes in 2019, 2020, or 2021. They must also have recorded at least one dependent on their 2021 tax return. They also have to have filed their 2021 tax year Arizona personal income tax return as the only taxpayer on the single, married, separately, or head of household return. So, how much will y'all receive? Well, looks like eligible taxpayers will receive up to $750 in their November stimulus check. Each taxpayer will receive $250 for each dependent under 18 and $100 for each adult dependent that has registered up to a maximum of 3. Not bad. I guess an extra $750 could go a pretty decent way toward Thanksgiving and maybe even Christmas expenses, paying, mortgage, utility, rent payment, whatever. Or maybe just throw it in your brokerage account and pick up some deals on some stocks or index funds. Anyway, state of Texas, guys. Anybody from Texas here? Just drop me a comment down below if you're from Texas, from Arizona, from Alabama. Let me know if you guys are from any of those states. And if you're not, make sure you let your friends and relatives know who live in these states to expect these checks. So you got Texas stimulus checks here. How much is the state government sending before the month ends? Oh, wow. Houston in the house. We got multiple people from Texas. You got, let's see, who we got from Texas here? We have all these windows open. I always got like a million tabs open. So I got Teresa Webb in the house, Sound Beast in Houston. We got Marlene McCool in Texas, Baby Enoch in Texas, Richard Ellis in Texas. So Joan Leon. So we got a lot of people from Texas here. So, all right, cool. I just like to make sure I'm bringing you guys relevant information, right? So the Internal Revenue Service, also known as the IRS, everyone's favorite group of people, has clarified that for 2023 tax year, most state stimulus payments won't be taxable on federal tax returns. While federal stimulus checks concluded a couple years ago, over 20 states provided financial relief in the form of tax rebate checks, inflation relief checks, and or stimulus checks last year. But the trend continues in 2023 with some states still offering these rebates. So let's talk about the Texas stimulus checks, how much they send in, who's getting it. All right. So basically the eligibility criteria, amounts, and delivery times for the state's payments, they're going to vary across from state to state. But basically, it looks like Texas, for instance, issues annuity payments based on the teacher retirement system. Interesting how Texas is doing this. So in Texas, annuity payments are based on the teacher retirement system. The TRS issued every month on the last business day. Paper checks will be sent via mail on November 29th, 2023, and deposits will be directed to the account by November 30th, 2023. Meanwhile, checks will also be sent via mail on December 28th. So, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that after this live ends, I will leave links for each of these state stimulus checks that are going out. That way you guys can see my sources and get additional details on this if you want. Yeah. All right. Next up, anybody out here from Virginia? All right. So Virginia is going to be sending out checks for 2023. Let's see. So amid new Virginia election results, and now that Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin has signed a new 2023 Virginia budget, eligible Virginia taxpayers are receiving one-time tax rebates, also known as stimulus checks. So I think people want to see the money. And I feel like some of these lawmakers are literally just kind of like almost bribing people. Hey, please vote for me. If you vote for me, I'll send you a stimulus check. I feel like some of these that's like the strategy of some of these lawmakers. Anyway, kind of like just putting the carrot in front of people. I don't know if I like that. Do y'all like that? Anyway, first and foremost, if you had any tax liability in the previous year, you could receive the 2023 Virginia rebate. So for example, if you had adjusted gross income last year of at least $11,950 for a single filer or less than $23,900 filing jointly, you had a zero tax $0 tax liability and aren't eligible for the 2023 Virginia tax rebate. A similar situation occurs if your only income last year came from Social Security, SSDI, or unemployment. Virginia doesn't tax those benefits, so if you likely had zero tax liability and won't be eligible for this rebate. Okay, but under the budget recently passed by Virginia lawmakers, eligible Virginia single tax filers are eligible for up to $200. And joint tax filers can expect a rebate of up to $400. So again, it's a check. It's not like, it's not like a huge windfall of cash, but I'm pretty sure anybody who gets an unexpected $200 check or $400 check is not going to be like, it's only $400. I'll just rip it up. It's not even worth cashing. I don't think anybody's going to do that, right? So I've always been told, like, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Bella Odell, thank you so much for the super chat. Like I said, guys, always appreciate it. Totally appreciate you guys. It is not required, but it is always appreciated. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Bella. All right, so who we got next in the list? All right, we talked about Arizona. We talked about Texas. We talked about Alabama. Let's see who else we got here. So what I'm going to do here, because there's multiple states still sending these checks out, I'm going to keep you guys posted. I've actually left a link for my Patreon down below. You don't have to sign up for the paid versions, though you can if you want. There's added benefits. But if you hit the link in the description down below, you'll see my Patreon. You can join my Patreon and just be a part of that community there, because even with the free version of Patreon, I will be posting things that I don't necessarily post here. And so Glenn Lewis, love you too. Appreciate you. So let's talk about what's going on in 2024, right? Well, some people are still on the sidelines. They've been dealing with high interest rates, inflation, a looming recession, whether or not, the federal government, Jerome Powell and the powers that be want to admit that we're in a recession or not. A lot of people are feeling the financial pain, the financial stressors. And I get it, but some people are still moving forward financially. And I just want to give a huge pat on the back for those who are. And let's just talk about some of the things that you should be considering when you're buying a house, if you're investing in real estate, right? Even if interest rates fall in 2024, some things that you should be thinking about, right? Now, how many of you guys own your own houses, right? Like, if you own your own house, just say, say baby step 7, right? I think baby step 7 for those Dave Ramsey fans out there is when your house is fully paid off, you have no debts, and you've literally you won the game, right? How many of you guys got paid off houses? So and if you don't have a paid off house, how many of you guys wish you were in a position to have a paid off house? Because I want you guys to understand that whether you are or you're not, it is an attainable situation. So the key is, baby steps. Soundbee says baby step 7, still paying $60K left. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. Make sure when you hit when you complete paying off the house, you call Dave Ramsey and do the debt-free scream. So anyway, a lot of potential home buyers have pressed the pause button when it comes to buying a house, right? And before inflation and high interest rates, mortgage rates were around 3%, believe it or not. And they were at 3% for a long time. In fact, me and my family were lucky enough to kind of, get mortgages in the below 3% fixed rate for 30 years, which is just unbelievable now. Why? Because now interest rates are as high as 8%, which is the highest that these mortgage rates have been in the last 30 years. Well, at least in the last 20 years, I'll say that, which is a freaking long time. But there may actually be some good news on the horizon. So it looks like some of these interest rates may actually go down in 2024, but they're probably not going to go back down to those historic lows that we did see back in 2020 and 2021. So, the question is, like, should you rush out and make a home purchase just because these interest rates have fallen, right? And so I want to share with you guys some of these things that you might want to consider when it comes to buying a house. not just the interest rate or the mortgage payment, but there's some other factors that you may want to consider. Now, Annette says, don't buy a house, wait for the real estate market to crash. How many of you guys think that we're going to see a real estate housing market crash? If you think we're going to see the real estate housing market crash, just type in crash in the comments section down below. And if you don't think we're going to see a real estate housing market crash and you think that these prices are high now and they're here to stay, type in no crash. I'd love to see what you guys think about where we're going from here as a market, because we are the market. Think about it. If no one buys any houses, like if everyone decided to like go on strike from buying houses, well, what do you think is going to happen to the housing prices? They're not going to go any higher. They're probably going to fall and crash. So if everyone just stopped buying houses, basically there will be no way to sustain the current prices. And theoretically, they should fall, because anyone who's in a situation that has to sell their house is going to have to sell it for less money. And that would ultimately cascade into a housing market crash. But it's a very unlikely scenario, but it could happen, right? So let's see what you guys are saying. So I got a lot of people saying crash. A lot of people saying crash. All right. Let's see who's saying crash. Robin Workman. We got Russell Diaz. We got Spanish Harlem. We got Super Gorilla Man. So DJ Dunn. Now who's saying no crash? Not a whole lot of no crashes in here. Bella Odell says no crash. Carlos Ortiz says no crash. Me personally, I don't think we're going to see a crash. We may see some leveling off and maybe some softening, meaning like not like this continuous, increase in prices, but and maybe even a little bit of a pullback. But I would say this: if we get any kind of pullback, I don't think it'd necessarily be worth gambling to see if you're going to get the pullback. And here's the thing: most people who are, and because a lot of people said that there's going to be a crash. Now, let me ask you this before I say what I'm about to say next. For those of you guys who said that there's going to be a crash, are you interested in buying real estate after the crash happens? Or are you waiting for the crash to happen so that you can get a deal on real estate? Let's just say the house of your dreams right now is $500,000. Are you waiting for a crash to hopefully be able to pick that house up for, say, $425,000, $400,000? Like, what's your strategy? Because here's something that I want you to consider. There's a lot of people who sat on the sidelines, waiting for a crash. But when the crash didn't happen, prices kept going higher and higher. And when that happened, it basically became more and more expensive to ultimately be able to buy a house. So it's kind of like if you mistime the market, because that's kind of like timing the market. If you decide to wait to buy a house, even though you're financially able to buy a house today, but you're like, I'm gonna wait, I'm gonna keep renting. I'm gonna wait for the housing market to crash. If the housing market doesn't crash, that means that you've mistimed the market. And if you mistime the market and the market continues to go higher and higher, then you've actually paid more, or you've kept yourself from being able to buy the house for indefinitely, theoretically, potentially, right? Because look at it like this. Rent, for the most part, keeps going up year after year. So if rent keeps going up year after year, but you're hoping that the housing market crashes, but if the housing market doesn't crash and the homes get more and more expensive, not only are you wasting more money renting, but you're also watching the price of the home you want to buy become more and more expensive. So it's kind of like, man, like it's quite a gamble. So that's one of the reasons why I don't like to time the market, because it's literally impossible to time the market. If you ever watch like CNBC or heck, you can be on YouTube looking at any of these YouTubers out here, myself included. Like if I were to like try to predict the market, don't believe me, because I don't have a crystal ball and neither does anyone else. Like any of the biggest, like who's the biggest YouTuber out there that you watch that's predicting or, predicting like housing market directions? Can you guys name any big YouTubers doing that? The thing is because if you're wrong, you're really getting burned, Because if you're wrong, you're renting for longer, and that money that you're spending renting is not going toward building equity in the real estate that you're looking to purchase. Okay, so Bella Odell, okay, you watch Clear Value Tax. How many of you guys watch Clear Value Tax? Brian is amazing. I love his analytical perspective on the economy and his perspective on real estate. I think he brings a tremendous amount of value, and it's probably why he named himself Clear Value Tax, because he delivers on the value. But it's like, if you guess wrong, and if you guess wrong and you end up buying, then chances are you've paid a lot more. Now, if you guess right and you wait and the housing market crashes, then of course you get a significant discount, and that could be great. The other thing is even if the housing market were to crash, if interest rates didn't go down, but interest rates went up, then your monthly payment may not necessarily go down. So it's kind of like, did you really win? We got Economic Ninja people here. A lot of you guys sharing that you get your real estate predictions and news from Economic Ninja. Anybody else watch Economic Ninja? We got Johnny Bravo listed here by the Old Bag. So the Old Bag listens to Johnny Bravo, Clear Value. We got Cat Smith listening to Economic Ninja, Super Gorilla Man, Economic Ninja. Appreciate you guys. These are all awesome channels, and I watch Economic Ninja too. He drops a tremendous amount of value. So yeah, but I mean, these are the things you got to think about, right? What are the consequences of getting it wrong, right? When it comes to like timing the market. So I don't time the stock market. If I see a deal on stocks, I'm going to buy stocks. But what I rather do is just develop a very consistent dollar cost averaging strategy to invest in real estate or to invest in stocks, primarily through ETFs and index funds on a regular basis, because it's impossible to be right enough to be profitable on a very, very consistent basis. So rather than being wrong and end up losing my money, I would rather just simply identify very well-established ETFs and index funds that have a tremendous track record, and literally just budget making contributions and investments to those things on a regular basis. And then you're growing your money on average. Let's just say you keep up with the S&P 500, you're growing your money at a compounded interest rate of roughly 8 to 12% per year on average for the long term. So that's how I like to look at it. When it comes to buying real estate, I feel like, research the market, understand where you're going, get a good feel for, if you feel like, prices are sustainable, but ultimately you have to make a personal decision on real estate. If you're able to buy real estate today, I personally would not necessarily want to wait, because you don't know what the future holds, and waiting could end up costing you more in terms of time lost and in terms of the direction of the housing prices. If they happen to go higher from here, if inventory gets tighter from here, think about it. There's a lot of people who own homes right now that will not sell their house simply because they have an interest rate of around 3%, and they know they'll never get that interest rate again. Well, I don't want to say never, but it's highly unlikely. So they were literally willing to just hold on to this house and just never sell it, just because they know that this is some of the cheapest money that we've ever seen in the history of America. So rather than sell it, most people would rather just hold on to that property and just rent it. And then that property never goes on the market for sale. And if that's the case, there's even fewer units for sale on the market, theoretically driving the price higher up for houses. All right, so let's just say scenario number one. You're not sure if you will be able to stay in the house for 5 years. Well, if you can't stay in the house for at least 5 years, you're probably going to take a financial hit when you sell your house. Most people, when they sell their house, if they've been in their house for 10 years or more, they're going to make money on that house. But you increase the risks of losing money on your house if you end up staying there for less than 5 years. So one thing that most financial experts will say is if you can't guarantee you're going to stay in the house at least 5 years, it's generally recommended not to buy a house. The way mortgages are structured, is another thing you need to take into consideration, because you pay way more money in interest in the first several years of buying a home. And usually it's not until, you're at least 5 years into the mortgage pay down process, that you've actually start to make progress on paying down the principal balance on your mortgage, just to even attempt to break even when you sell. So, because a lot of people think, well, look at your own situation here. For all you guys who own a home, if you own a home, just say you're a homeowner in the comment section down below. If you own a home, think about how much you bought your house for, right? Now, a lot of you guys have probably checked Zillow on a regular basis. Go to Zillow.com. Go to find out what the Zillow estimate is. The Zestimate is on your house. Is it higher or lower than where you bought it from, right? So if you happen to be, one of the lucky people, I don't want to say lucky, but anyway, if you happen to be one of those people who end up buying a house for like 200 grand, like, I don't know, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, today that house is probably worth 300 grand. Might even be worth close to $400,000 depending on where you're at. Sound Beast bought a house for $159,000. Sound Beast, what part of the United States are you in? Because that's a low price for real estate nowadays. Like 159 is just almost unbelievable. But a lot of people don't take into consideration that, let's say you're Sound Beast, like in the comments, right? So Sound Beast bought his house for $159,000. Let's say his house is now worth 300. So that means that, what's that? $141,000 in equity, right? So will you walk away with $141,000 in profit? Well, technically no, because technically yes, because if you bought it for 159, you sell it for 300, then that's $141,000 in profit. But what's going to happen is your real estate agent's going to say, hey, I need to collect my fee of 0.06%. So what's 0.06% out of that $300,000? You're looking at 18 grand. So 300K minus $18,000 minus, you bought it for 159. So you profited $123,000. So not bad, especially since you got to live in the house for, however long you lived there. You got some tax advantages because, theoretically your mortgage interest is tax deductible, lowering your tax liability in some cases. Your property taxes are tax deductible in a lot of cases. So there's a lot of tax advantages. And at the same time, if you didn't pay a mortgage payment, you'd be paying rent. So in that case, you probably walked away pretty good, pretty good. So, but these are things you want to consider. Also, if you're buying a house because you feel like everybody else is buying a house, that's not a good reason to buy a house. So never just buy a house just because everyone else is, or your friend told you to buy a house. But that doesn't mean it's not that doesn't mean it's not a good time to buy a house either. You just need to understand why you're buying it. So keep all these different things in mind. And the last thing I want to ask you or share with you guys is, make sure you're not stretching yourself to be able to afford a house, right? Some people will get into a house using an ARM, which is a adjustable rate mortgage, just to get the payment a little bit lower so that they can afford the house or be able to qualify for the house. This is, generally speaking, a huge mistake. A huge mistake. I would never, ever recommend anyone buy a house or refinance a house using an ARM. I would never recommend that, because it is literally a ticking time bomb and you have no idea what's going to happen once that thing expires. Interest, you might get into this thing at, 8% interest rates today, or well, they'll bring you in with a teaser rate, usually with the ARMs, the adjustable rate mortgages. So it'll be probably like, all right, if mortgage rates are 8%, they'll be like, hey, if you get in this ARM, we'll give it to you at 7%. But then by the time that ARM expires, you don't know where interest rates may be. Interest rates may be 12%. And then now you're like, oh my God, I can't afford this house at 12%. I could barely afford it at the 7% teaser rate. And this is how a lot of people end up losing their shirts and their homes. So me personally, I try to stay conservative, fixed rate 30-year mortgages, fixed rate 15-year or 30-year mortgages are all I mess with personally. And I don't even if I can afford a 15-year mortgage, I choose to do the 30-year mortgage at a higher interest rate simply because the interest rate is usually it's not that much of a discount to make me be interested in doing 15 years. And if I do a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, that means I have a lower payment and I have more breathing room. So if I want to pay if I want to pay extra on the loan, I can still do that. But if your minimum payment is super high out the gate at a 15-year interest rate or a 15-year mortgage, you have way less wiggle room to work with. And especially if you're headed into a recessionary period, you want to make sure you have as much dry powder as possible so that you're prepared for whatever may come down the pipeline leading up to a recession, during a recession, or even after. You want to have as much dry powder as possible. That way, if you get laid off, hey, I don't have a 15-year mortgage. Imagine if you had a 15-year mortgage, it might be like $2,000 a month for your mortgage payment. But if you had a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, maybe your mortgage payment is more like, $1,400. So now you have an extra $600 to work with, and there's nothing stopping you from using that extra $600 to pay your mortgage balance down faster. If you choose to, you can make principal payments. But the thing is at least if times got rough, you don't have to make the $2,000 payment, but you can choose to, you can elect to. And that's the thing, guys. You want to make sure you put yourself in a situation where you have as many options as possible. Don't back yourself into a corner and leave yourself with no options. So anyway, guys, I just want to share some information with you guys. Vashar Moore says 3.99%, but I want lower payment. Vashar, is that a fixed rate mortgage you got, or is that like an ARM? Let me know what you got there. Eva Barrow says that's why we just paid 100% cash for ours. Electricity is expensive. Hey, of course, if you can pay cash, that is a good option. Me personally, right now, I'll say this. When interest rates were 3%, there's no way I would pay cash. I would rather get the cheap money from the government and make small payments back to them, right? But it depends on everyone's financial situation. If you're looking at buying a $500,000 house and you have $550,000 to your name, I personally wouldn't pay cash, because that's not leaving you with a whole heck of a lot of cushion. And a lot of people end up being house poor. And then what ends up happening is, if you've paid any attention to what happened recently, we saw a lot of people think when you buy a house, your mortgage payment locks you in at that rate, locks you in at a monthly payment. And like, you never have to worry about what renters have to worry about, which is their rent going up. Well, ask any homeowner who's owned a house over the last 3 to 5 years. How have your property taxes looked? They've gone up over the years, haven't they? How has your property, how has your mortgage, how has your homeowner's insurance looked over the years? It's gone up, right? Well, these are premiums that are oftentimes added to your mortgage payment. And so if your property taxes or your insurance goes up, well, guess what? Your mortgage payment went up. So don't think that you just bought a house and now you forever locked in your monthly expenses. It doesn't work that way. So if I only have $550,000 to my name, there's no way I'm going to buy a house for $500 and be left with only $50K. And I don't want to sound like, only $50K, but I'm just saying it doesn't make sense to tie up so much capital into a very illiquid asset like real estate for a long period of time, and then you're just kind of like house poor, living, walking on eggshells, hoping something expensive or some unexpected expense doesn't pop up. Because the last thing you want to do is pay cash for a house, and then some unexpected expense comes up, and now you have to, get a payday loan or rely on some high interest credit card to float you through. So just some food for thought I wanted to share with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. I always enjoy hanging out with you guys. If you haven't already, check out the brand new channel, Truth Exposed. I left a link for you guys pinned in the comment section down below. If you want to join me over on Patreon, definitely hit that link down below. There's a free Patreon available for you guys if you want to do that. There's a paid version with more features. Either one is fine. I just like hanging out with y'all. I'll see you in the next one. Be safe.